Hey guys, welcome back. It feels really good to be back and to reconnect. Super excited for another season. I know it's been a while since I've posted last. I've been in a bit of a hiatus. It was a season of redirection, but I'm back with a new perspective. Excited for this new season. If you've been here before, you might notice a slight change to the podcast. Welcome to our new home, Her Next Page, formerly known as the Live Well and Yoga Podcast. If you're new to the pod, welcome to the family. This is your space to reset and reconnect with yourself. And I'm your host, Christine Demal. You guys, I can't believe it's been about a year and a half. Time has gone by so fast, but I do have to say, I've learned so much over the last year. There's been so much growth, and I get not everything needs to be a lesson learned, but I feel like each season we're given these gentle reminders. And this past year kind of highlighted one of those moments. This last year completely changed what I thought about redirection. I used to think that redirection meant I was confused or that I was somehow off track. But this past year taught me that redirection has nothing to do with confusion because the path has always been there. It was just a path I'd never walked before, or maybe those around me hadn't either. I might have tiptoed on that path, but redirected towards another direction because building something from the ground up can be intimidating and super scary. And then you start to hear those voices in your head saying, like, what if I fail? And then the fear of judgment creeps in, and the voices say, why is she being so unrealistic? Or someone needs to bring her back to reality. But the truth is, in my mind, this has always been my reality. And side note, I graduated with a bachelor's in journalism with the vision and hopes to become a news reporter or news anchor. If you watched Good Day LA in the back in the day, Maria Kibon and Jillian Barbary were my inspirations. But anyways, fast forward, somehow along the path, I started listening to those distractions. I started listening to other people's opinions and started listening to my own self doubt. And the safer path was to choose one that someone had already found success in. And I figured, if they found success, maybe this will work for me too. But the harder I worked, I truly couldn't find myself in those places. And that's when I realized what I had been missing all along was self trust. So, whatever season you're in right now, you guys, just know you'll figure it out because we all know how to come back home to ourselves. Our mind, body, and soul naturally seek that connection. It wants to be in harmony. Even if we resist it, even when fear gets in the way, there's something within us that will direct us to who we're meant to be. And eventually, that determination to become who you are supposed to be will be greater than the fear that's been holding you back. And so that all centers around what I actually want to talk about today. That was a little self reflection I've had just from this past year. And, the highlight of last year was redirection. I feel like that's been the highlight of my life. My life really hasn't followed a linear path, at least according to society standards. I found my first corporate job at 20. I had my son at 23. I graduated college at 26. I went into cosmetology school at 27. I've been kind of all over the place, you guys, but I feel like this past year was my reminder to come back home, to find alignment and choose myself. And that was really the start of Her Next Page. And Her Next Page is an expansion of Live Well and Yoga. We are continuing the conversation around self care, personal growth, and self trust, but from a deeper perspective, from a more grounded perspective, one that just doesn't center around self care as a practice or a morning routine, but what it actually feels like to self care in our connections in the moment. Because this new version of me, you guys, isn't just interested in self care as something we do when life feels heavy. But trust me, I do love a good spa day, a good me day, don't get me wrong. But I'm also interested in the type of self care that changes how we show up in our relationships, in our connections, and in the decisions we make, and in those moments when we're asked to choose ourselves. Just think about that for a second. Even though it's been a while since I've posted on this podcast, these conversations really haven't ended. I still find myself in deep talks with close girlfriends about life, growth, and just where we're at in our own journeys. And those conversations have only gotten more grounded, more real, and more honest. And I'm so inspired by the resiliency and the strength around me that it was just a reminder I still want to continue the conversation with you guys too. So, in this episode, I do want to introduce her next page, how it came to life, why I changed the title name, and a pivotal moment that just revealed a shift in me that allowed me to see myself in a new light. So, with all that said, you guys, let's get started. Hey guys, thanks for watching Her Next Page. I'm your host, Christine Jamal. This is your space to reset and reconnect with yourself. In this season of Her Next Page, our conversations are only getting more real, more grounded, and more honest. For more inspiration, please subscribe and share. Let's connect. Okay, guys, that might have been a lot to take in, but that was just my own personal self reflection from this past year. I really do feel that the universe sends us these gentle reminders or, little love notes or lessons to be learned to remind us of our potential, to keep choosing alignment and to keep choosing self trust. And, that also centers around how her next page came to life. Her next page actually came from a personal experience that changed everything I thought I knew about self care, personal growth, and self trust. So I found myself in this connection that on the surface, things seemed aligned. There was attraction, connection, and shared interest. And, in a lot of ways, it felt easy and it allowed me to soften again because I hadn't experienced that in a while. But let's not get it twisted. This episode isn't about a man, it's about a decision. It's about acknowledging that I was evolved enough to stop abandoning myself when facing potential. And that experience was pretty much the catalyst that revealed something in me, something deeper within me, which is self trust. And I owe that in part to my self care practices, the yoga, the walks, the pauses, and the resets, because those self care practices, those baby steps, helped build that internal foundation that I always speak about, that internal validation. So I wouldn't look outside of myself to define my worth. And what I realized, you guys, is that self care didn't just make me feel good, it allowed me to become more aware of myself. It brought out that self awareness. I recognized what aligned and what didn't. And without self awareness, we ignore red flags, we repeat behaviors, and we tolerate things that hurt us. So that self awareness really allowed me to connect with what aligned. And eventually, that self awareness grew into self respect. I started honoring what I was feeling versus dimming my light or playing it small to, keep things comfortable. And in the past, I would, you know, I would tell myself I could go with the flow. I could just, go with it. But really that without that self-awareness, I didn't create the boundary. I didn't elevate my value. I didn't realize my standards. I just kind of went with it. And there was nothing wrong with it. I was still that nice girl, but it didn't help me create those boundaries. And as that self respect deepened, it truly changed on what I was willing to accept. And eventually, that self respect turned into self trust. And so, when I found myself in this connection where there was attraction, connection, and mutual interest, we even connected on things like healthy foods and self care practices. And that really drew me in. And even with all those good things, on the surface, I couldn't help but notice that I wasn't really myself. I wasn't fully showing up as myself. Even with all those good things, I was still missing something. I was missing the clarity, the connection, and the alignment. And, there was just this like angst in me. There was some kind of anxiety that I couldn't help but notice. And I told myself, like, I had to make a decision. I was either going to stay or I was going to go, continue the relationship and hope things would change or really listen to how I was feeling. And when I think about it, if I stayed, I would have stayed just based on potential, the idea of what could be. But really, in inside, I just felt like I wasn't fully showing up as myself, and I was dimming my light in this connection. And so I had to make a decision, and I decided to choose myself, and I walked away. And that moment right there was one of the clearest expressions of self love that I had ever experienced, because I showed up differently to a similar situation. And this isn't about rejecting anyone. It's about no longer rejecting myself to make things feel comfortable, in order for something to work. And what I realized from this connection is that not all relationships have to be toxic for you to walk away from. Some of the hardest connections to walk away from are the ones that are almost right. The ones that, look good on the outside, but something isn't aligned in the inside. And we could spend so much time asking ourselves, what more can I do? Are they going to choose me? And, you know, am I good enough? But her next page asks, is this enough for me? Does this align for me? Or do I choose this? And that shift changes everything. And, what this experience really taught me was self trust. To trust myself, even if I didn't know what was next, to trust myself that even in the unknown, and to stop abandoning myself to make something work. And what I've come to understand from all of this, you guys, is that self care wasn't just meant to be done in isolation. Self care helped build that internal foundation. All those baby steps, the yoga, the walks, the resets, the pauses, helped build that internal validation so I wouldn't look for it externally to define my worth. And eventually, all the self care allowed me to become more self aware, to recognize what aligns and what doesn't align. And that self awareness turned into self respect, to honor what I was feeling versus dimming my light to make something work or to make, a situation comfortable. And that self respect eventually turned into self trust. Because the moment of growth, you guys, isn't when we recognize something isn't right. It's when we trust ourselves enough, even if we don't know what's next. I didn't need to trust what looked good on paper. I just needed to trust what I already knew. And I think that's what this whole chapter of my life has taught me, that not every decision that honors you will feel easy, and that not every situation that looks good on the outside will feel aligned on the inside. And and I think the most loving thing you could do for yourself is to choose yourself, even when something isn't technically wrong, but it just doesn't feel good inside. And that's truly the heart of her next page, not having all the answers, but trusting myself enough to turn the page anyways. I hope this helped you guys. I hope this inspires you on your self care journey. If you know anyone who needs to hear this message, please share and please subscribe. I hope to reconnect with you guys again. And until next time, you guys, take care.